And it's not just any Friday, but it is Raid Friday. Ugandans, as we all know, the dictator continues to occupy a chair that does not belong to him. It belongs to the leader of the People Power Movement, Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, also known as Bobi Wine. I'd like to start off with telling the story of a brave, courageous Ugandan teacher. During COVID-19 lockdown, there was a chapati seller that was selling chapati after curfew. The police came to grab her, and this teacher stepped in to save her from being arrested or possibly being killed, as we have seen with the recent events. Unfortunately, the teacher ended up getting shot. I saw a picture of him while he was in hospital, and not long after that, I found out that he had lost his life. He was a father, and he was a Ugandan, just like you and I. This brave man was Eric Mutusinga. If we do not fight for the likes of Eric, Rita, Dan, Barbara Alimandi, this injustice will continue. And so this story is a reminder as to why it is important to wear raid, not just on Fridays, but every single day. And so, welcome to Raid Friday. We are going to start off with introducing the panel. Dr. Daniel Kauma, can you start us off?
Good morning, everybody, or good evening, wherever you are. My name is Dr. Daniel Kauma. I'm based here in Washington, D.C., and I'm happy to be part of Raid Friday discussion today, and looking forward to sharing some good ideas and conversations with the rest of the team. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Daniel Kauma. Aruna?
Hello, Ugandans. I'm glad once again to be part of this show. I'm by the names of Jeremiah Haruna Farouk, People Power Youth Leader and a People Power activist based in United Arab Emirates. Thank you so much.
Perfect, Jaja Ibu.
Yes, hello comrades, hello fellow Ugandans home and abroad. This is Jaja Ibu, but my real name is Isombi Ibrahim Bogere, commonly known as Jaja Ibu, and I'm the coordinator for People Power in South Africa. I'm glad to be part of this conversation, and I applaud each and every Ugandan that is doing everything in their power to see that we liberate our country and get back the power to the hands of the people. People power, our power.
Thank you very much, comrade from South Africa. Let's move on to Edward Abili. Edward, can you please unmute?
Hello, viewers. I'm glad to be on this show. My name is Edward Abili from Texas. I am the regional coordinator for the People Power Group in Texas. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, one of the only women on this platform other than myself, Comrade Bena from Colorado. Please introduce yourself.
Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Bena Nakitio Ambundo, and the People Power Coordinator in Denver, Colorado. Nice to be here today.
Comrade Bena, thank you very much for joining us all the way from Colorado. And so I'd like to start with you. There is a saying that when you train a woman, the nation is trained. Can women of Uganda enrich the People Power movement by choosing to fight against dictatorship?
Thank you so much, Madam Moderator. And that's a very good question, because when you train a woman, you train the nation. But when you train a man, you train an individual. Women are able to touch everybody around them and, educate them. And when the women are educated, everybody is educated. Women have been involved in so many struggles all over the world. And I'm sure the Ugandan women can do the same, to liberate our country. Women have fought dictatorships. They've fought for rights to vote, rights for equal employment, equal pay, and all that. And whenever women have been involved in a struggle, it has been a successful one. We've seen so many women on the Ugandan ground who have been, despite the harassment and intimidation, have done all they can to make sure they put people power, ahead of everything, even ahead of their families, ahead of their lives. So definitely the women in Uganda are going to make sure there is change in Uganda. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. That was very well put, and I'm so glad to know that you are one of the strong women that is fighting alongside us and alongside our Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. And so, Comrade JK, why should women participate in change, in your view?
Yeah, thank you so much, Comrade Patricia. I'm so glad to be here. Just that you forgot to let me introduce myself. I'm so glad to be here.
Sorry.
This is my first time to be on this platform. Thank you so much, Comrade Patricia, and everyone who loves change and everyone who has done a big job to see that we are moving forward to bring change and bringing the new leadership of Honorable Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. Thank you so much. Women in leadership, they are so vital. Like, for example, in Liberia, the first female president in Africa was Johnson Sirleaf Ellen. She rose to power because of women. They demonstrated after the war that was brought upon by Charles Taylor. Women came on the streets. Women went ahead to demonstrate in fields. They slept in fields, football fields, for over 6 full months to see that there is freedom in Liberia. So we are so thankful that women are so in power and full swing in this struggle. We're seeing so many people on ground who are women. Thank God that President Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu knows the stake of a woman and knows the value of a woman and what she can add to the struggle. His Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu has put women on the forefront for this fight, and that is so grateful.
Well, thank you very much. And of course, in the People Power movement, we see women like Zedriga, who comes from a completely different region. We also see Shami Malende as well as many other women. And so People Power continues to be inclusive of everyone, including women like myself and yourself. And I'll move on to Comrade Daniel. Dr. Daniel Kauma, the instability in Uganda requires unity. In your view, should Ugandans expect a united opposition before 2021 elections?
Thank you so much for that question, and I thank everyone who is tuning in to listen to us today. That's really the question right now, which we are all looking at as members of the opposition who want change in Uganda. And I want to break that question into two parts. The first part is the pain that Ugandans are going through today. It's very easy to put the numbers on the table and show we have 1,000 COVID-19 cases in Uganda. But what we're ignoring is the pain that the average Ugandan is going through. There's high unemployment in Uganda today. In fact, the Uganda Episcopal Conference just laid off Catholic teachers and teachers who work in Catholic school. They lost their salaries today. And there are many Ugandans who work in different sectors of the economy, whether it's the formal sector or the informal sector, who are unemployed. People are struggling to make ends meet. Many businesses have lost capital. They have lost customers because of the lockdown. So there's pain which is going on across the country that our leaders and the political class has failed to understand, because they just look at the numbers, they look at the metrics, and the resources which they have acquired along the way, such as the loans from the IMF, the World Bank, the European Union, the United States. These loans have not trickled down to the average Ugandan on the street. So what that has resulted into is the collective spirit of Ugandans to say that we need change. We need better leadership. We need leaders that are going to understand the plight of the Ugandan people. And that's where Honorable Kyagulanyi comes in as the leader who most of the opposition supporters are rallying behind. At the moment, as we speak, 7 out of 10 opposition supporters want Honorable Kyagulanyi to be the flag bearer. And there are many reasons. So when we talk about unity, the supporters are getting unified already. 7 out of 10 are already saying they want Robert Kyagulanyi to be the flag bearer of the opposition. Now, the question we have to answer is that do we wait to drag along the opposition leaders as well to make sure they understand the reality on the ground, that we need to unify, to prioritize the needs of the Ugandan people to take on Museveni in 2021. And I'm going to highlight just a few reasons why I think Honorable Kyagulanyi is the most compelling candidate. The first one is being an outsider, not being part of the establishment. The fact that the political class has failed to understand the struggles of the average Ugandan has allowed Robert Kyagulanyi to rise to the scene and resonate to the needs of the Ugandan people and show them that he's their fighter. He's the one who is willing to take on Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. Another point is the age of the country. The average age of Uganda is 16 years old. Robert Kyagulanyi is one of them. He's a young man. He can resonate to that generation of Ugandans, unlike the previous opposition leaders we have had in the past. So that allows him to resonate with this base of young voters. Another point I would like to point out is the issue that he resonates to the base of the opposition. Having suffered with the Arua 33, having gone through the struggles, being targeted by NRM, being locked up, being charged for treason, Kyagulanyi has the credibility to mobilize and unite the opposition, which some of the previous opposition leaders haven't had in the past. I talked about the ability to resonate with the average Ugandan through his music, through his craft, as well as member of parliament. So all those advantages, being an outsider, being able to appeal to the base of Ugandan voters, which is younger than previously, being able to unite the opposition, and being an outsider than previously. He's not part of any political party. He's just one of us. He's a leader who says we need to unite as the opposition to bring Uganda to victory in the next election. That's why I think it's important for the opposition to rally behind a candidate who is a new figure on the block, who is willing and is ready to bring more Ugandan voters to vote in the next election. And another point I would like to touch on is why unity is important. If we look at what happened in Kenya recently, they had the Jubilee Alliance that allowed President Kenyatta to win 2 elections in a row. So alliances do work and unity does help. I know there's a tendency for the opposition to say we can go at it alone. Yes, we have enough support in people power, but we need to bring everyone on board. We want 100% of the opposition, not just 70%, to be behind Robert Kyagulanyi for 3 reasons. One is the fact that we have a hostile political environment. As we speak today, we have young men who are being tortured on the streets just to express themselves politically. We have people who are being locked up. We have the Electoral Commission setting double standards for a scientific election. We have the judiciary, which never rules in favor of the opposition. So the game, again, needs to be challenged by a more constructive force, which will involve unity among the opposition ranks. The second point is the ability to resonate with the independent voters. That's a segment of the population that we cannot ignore, the independents and the moderate. And one of the ways you're going to reach across to this base of voter is by showing them that the opposition is willing to unite under one leader. And that will send a message that the opposition is not only about winning, but they're willing to build coalitions. They're willing to bring Ugandans together, even those that they disagree with politically. I think that will allow us to be able to woo voters who are still on the fence about the opposition. And the last point I'm going to make is the ability to compete across the board. Because remember, this is not just about the presidency. We have to win the parliamentary races and we have to win the LC races. If you have an alliance and unity in the opposition, it's going to allow you to pick the best candidate for the presidency, the best candidates across the board for the parliamentary seats, and the best candidates for the LC level seats. So those advantages can help us as opposition to have a formidable challenge against the NRM team in the upcoming election. So as opposition leaders, after highlighting the challenges Ugandans face today, it's incumbent upon our leadership to follow the lead of the supporters and say that we're going to unify under the strongest candidate, Robert Kyagulanyi, who is more exciting, who is willing to unite the opposition base, who relates to the younger demographic of voters, and who is an outsider, is not part of the establishment, and appealing to the majority of the Ugandan voters. So thank you so much for that great question. Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you very much, Dr. Daniel. That was very well put. And of course, there's so much that we need to change about what's wrong with Uganda. And we need a leader in our office that is going to be respected and influential, that's going to influence the youth and the people of Uganda to participate in politics so that we can clean up the country. So if we get the wrong person in, again, it's going to take us so much more longer to get to where we need to get. And so with that said, I also strongly believe that Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert would be the best fit. Let's move on to Comrade Haruna. Comrade Haruna, members of parliament are supposed to be a representative of the people that they serve. But have they contributed to the increasing instability and injustices we see today in Uganda?
Yeah, thank you so much, our host today and our viewers. Definitely, our members of parliament, they contribute a lot to the instability and the injustices we are seeing all over in Uganda. Why do I say this? In our constitution, it's clearly stipulated that we have 3 arms of government. That's the executive, legislature, and judiciary. And each of these arms, they have their roles and responsibility. Here comes, we see the members of parliament or the parliamentarians. First of all, they have a first duty, which is the legislation. Under legislation, they have the debating and the passing of the laws. But if we look at the kind of the laws they are passing, take an example, the passing of the unfavorable bills. These kind of bills which are unfavorable to the Ugandans, and they are making them to suffer. For example, we see the public order management bill, the tax bills like the OTT, the mobile money, which are making Ugandans to work like donkeys day and night. Take a look at the unnecessary amendments of the constitution, whereby this constitution, they are changing day and every day in the favor of President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, not in the favor of Ugandans who sent them into the parliament. So I think it's an injustice to the Ugandans being committed by the parliamentarians whom we sent into the parliament to rescue or to present for the people. Go ahead and see the approving of the unreasonable debt budgets. Because we all parliamentarians are the ones to approve the budgets and to do appropriation of the funds. But we are seeing every day that they are keeping on approving debt burdens for Ugandan, which are not favorable at all and which are becoming very hard and will be very, 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 very hard for us to pay in future. For example, if you go into the histories and if you read, we are having 48 trillion Ugandan shillings, a debt burden for Ugandans. Who is going to pay that? It's me, you, and your grandchildren. So it's high time we Ugandans to stand up and tell our members of parliament, please, it's high time, please do this. Go ahead, you will see the allocation of the unclassified expenditures. Recently, you saw when they passed a big, huge amount of money that went to the State House. It was unclassified, a lot of money, no one to account for it. We don't know where it has gone. We don't know whether they are using it to buy other equipments that are making Ugandans to suffer, like the guns and so on. So these are one of the atrocities that are being really committed by the member of parliament. That's why I regard them as injustices. Look, why should a member of parliament who is earning a 24 million shillings be given a brand new car of 300 million shillings? I see this as a lavish lifestyle of members of parliament on the expense of the taxpayers' money. So really, this one beats my understanding and makes me, I feel hard, because a member of parliament couldn't take such amount of money at the same time be given a 300 million car. This money is enough to be given to ordinary Ugandans, at least even if you give them 1 million per person to start a business. Look at the corruption rate among the parliamentarians. Recently, they were given 20 million shillings until Honorable Kyagulanyi Ssentamu came out and testified it and said, please, this is a bribe. But these guys, they took CL back. We saw the 100 million shillings, which was taken as a handshake. So all these are injustices being committed by the members of parliament, so which we cannot tolerate as Ugandans. Therefore, in my conclusion, I do call upon Ugandans to stand back behind Honorable Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. Reason being, he's very intelligent, very exposed, very confident, and down-to-earth man, and who will be the future of the Uganda. I think let me just end my submission with that. But I'm so glad that Ugandans at this time, they are raising up and they are ready to be behind Honorable Kyagulanyi Ssentamu as our next president come 2021. Thank you so much, my host.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Comrade Haruna. Thank you again. We are going to move on to Comrade Jaja Ibu. We have seen long lines of Ugandans at the People Power headquarters picking up leadership applications. Are Ugandans using people power to define their identities and roles?
Well, thank you so much, moderator, colleagues on the panel, and the viewers all over the world. Yes, this is Jaja Ibo once again. Yeah, of course, Madam Moderator, the lines that we are seeing in Kamocha today at the People Power headquarters, it is a statement that is being made by Ugandans. It is a statement that is being made that Ugandans have actually decided to rise up. Okay, Ugandans have been taken for a ride for a very long time. Ugandans have been taken for granted, and Mr. Museveni has actually been taking this as a weakness. Ugandans have been patient with Museveni. The Ugandans have always, because we are peaceful people, we have always made a statement that we want to have a peaceful change because we are not a violent generation. But of course, Mr. Museveni has not been listening, and that's why the Ugandans have actually decided to say enough is enough, and that is the lines that we are seeing in Nikamocha today. Just briefly, since this process started on the 2nd of July, 2000, since this process started on the 2nd of July 2020, about at the level of members of parliament, we have received 1,440 people that have actually expressed interest to run on the People Power ticket at the level of members of parliament. When you got the level of district chairpersons, 1,060 people have actually expressed interest to run under the People Power ticket. When we got the level of LOC3 chairperson, over 2,500 people have expressed interest to run under the People Power. And this shows that Ugandans have identified with this ideology of power, of people power. Ugandans have identified with this ideology that the power belongs to the people. And that is what we have actually been telling our people. Mr. Museveni, he brainwashed our people. He has been brainwashing our people for a very long time, making them think that leaders are the masters of the people and people are servants of the leaders, which is actually supposed to be the other way around. Okay, our constitution is very clear that under Article 1 that power belongs to the people. All power belongs to the people. That is Article 1. And subsection B, at Article 1, subsection B of the Constitution goes ahead to say that all power in the state emanates from the people who shall be governed through their will and consent. But when you look at the way we are being governed, it's not the way we want to be governed. So basically, Mr. Museveni is governing us against our will against our will and consent, contrary to the provision of the Constitution. So our mission as People Power, first of all, was to awaken Ugandans, to make them, you know what, the things are not the way you think they are. You are actually the leader. You are actually the bosses. You are actually the masters of these leaders. These leaders are supposed to be there because of you. You are the people that pay these leaders. You are the people that put these leaders in those offices, and they are accountable to you. They are your servants. This has been the mission of the people, especially the young people. Before Honorable Kyagulanyi came let me say into leadership, I wouldn't say politics because he has always wanted to call himself a leader, actually, and that is what he is. And he doesn't want to be identified as a politician, which I actually agree with. Before the coming of the emergence of Honorable Kyagulanyi, young people could only gather to talk about Arsenal, to talk about Manchester United, to talk about who is the most expensive player in the world. But right now, wherever you go all over the country, young people are gathering to talk about matters of the country. They are gathering to talk about injustices in the country. They gather to talk about human rights abuses. They gather to talk about all these evils that are being perpetrated by the government. So this is actually a good statement that is being made by by Ugandans. So this, in my opinion, I think that this is the time that we have been waiting for. And I actually am happy that Honorable Chagulanyi came, because he has opened the eyes of many of us. He has opened the eyes of many of the people in Uganda. Right? Because now today, like you can see that the regime is clearly under panic. The panic that we are seeing in the regime today is very unprecedented. This regime has never been in a panic in the way it is today because of people power movement. Today we saw Alhaji Nassan Teke Sebagala, the former mayor of Kampala and a very veteran politician, coming to identify with the people power. This shows that people power is actually fighting for inclusivity. People power is all about inclusivity. We fight for all what I would love to call 3Gs, and this is generation, geography, and gender. Okay, when we talk about generation, people power, in as much as we think that it is the time for young people, especially as the leaders of this generation, to be the shapers of our own destiny. But we also embrace people from all generations. We embrace the elders, we embrace the middle age, we embrace the young people. And that's why we are welcoming people like Al-Haji. That's why we have Dr. Lina as our deputy. That's why we have all these elders being there, because actually elders are supposed to guide the people. And when we talk about the gender, Honorable Chagulanyi is all about gender balancing. Actually, Honorable Chagulanyi, being a personal friend, I know him. He respects women so much. Actually, for him, he thinks that if women can be at the forefront of this struggle, if women can stand at the forefront of this struggle, Mr. Museveni will be no more. In South Africa, where I am today, when Mandela was imprisoned at the Robben Island, the struggle, Winnie Mandela, who was Nelson Mandela's wife, she took over the mantle and she led the struggle while Mandela was in prison. Okay, which we think that if we can have so many Winnie Mandelas in Uganda, if we can have the Stella Nyanzis, if we can have the Malendes, if we can have the Flavia Nabagabes, and so many of those people, so many of those women at the forefront of this struggle, we know very well that we can be able to push Mr. Museveni out of power. When we talk about geography, people power is all about people from all geographical locations. Okay, when you actually today, People Power Election Management Committee, besides at the headquarters in Kamoja, this process is taking place in other districts of Uganda, in Gulu, in Adjumani, in Arua, and all those districts in the east and the west. This process is going there, and actually the turn-up is overwhelming. And this is the message of People Power. It shows that Ugandans have received the message of People Power all over the country, contrary to what they were planning, because in the beginning they wanted to make it seem like People Power is only in Uganda, or it is only for Baganda. But now Ugandans have shown them something else. They have shown them that they identify with the message of People Power all over the country. Everywhere you go, people are saying People Power. This is what we have been waiting for. And I have no doubt in my mind that in 2021, we shall be able to liberate ourselves. In 2021, we shall be able to push Mr. Museveni out of power. In 2021, we shall be able to get the power back to the hands of the people, and from the hands of the tormentors, from the hands of the oppressors that have oppressed us, that have ruled over us for 35 years on the iron fist hand. This is the time for us to wake up and say enough is enough.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Dr. Daniel Kauma, why are the youth gravitating towards politics to the point that they themselves want to become leaders?
I think Mr. Ibu really talked about that point in his submission, and I'll just add on just a few remarks. If you look at the state of affairs in Uganda today, the young people are on the receiving end of the challenges most Ugandans face today. The unemployment is highest among the young people. The police brutality is mostly faced by the young people. The lack of health care and opportunities is mostly faced by the young people. But for the first time, Robert Chagulanyi gave these young people a leader. In the last 34 years of NRM, the young people have not had any leader that they identify with. But for the first time, Honorable Chagulanyi was able to come and articulate the suffering that young people are going through in Uganda today. And if you look at the majority of the voters and supporters who are rallying around Honorable Chagulanyi, it's mostly the young Ugandans. And looking historically at the elections we had in 2016 and the elections we had in 2011, the voters who turned out the least were young people. because they had voter apathy. Because they said, whatever we do for the last 34 years, there's no change happening on the ground. We're not feeling the effects of government policies improving our livelihoods. But finally, Robert Kyagulanyi has come and articulated the values and needs of the young people. For instance, Mr. Haruna talked about the issue of the national debt. Most of the money is borrowed on the backs of the future generations of Ugandans. The young people today are the ones who are going to pay over that debt. So right now we have almost 50 trillion shillings borrowed by NRM government. That has to be paid up by future generations of Uganda. And Honorable Kyagulanyi has been able to communicate to the young people that when you look at this national debt, they are going to increase your taxes, as it stood up against the OTT tax targeting social media. We saw the taxes targeting mobile money transfers. We have seen a decline in social services offered to these young people in their daily livelihoods. So you are receiving it on both ends. While they're borrowing on your behalf, they're not delivering for you, and then you're paying for it in terms of higher taxes. So that's why Bobi Wine came and articulated that message clearly for the young people, and they have been able to gravitate towards him, and that's why they are leading the charge towards change. If you look at most of the people picking up papers right now at the headquarters, it's young people who realize that this is their moment to lead the future generations of Ugandans. And if you compare that with NRM, right now Museveni, he's 75, at least he says he's 75, depending on which birth certificate you believe in. His vice president is 77, his prime minister is 74, and the speaker of parliament is 65. So you have this contrast between the future and the past, the old and the new school of leaders in Uganda. And that's why the youth are very excited, more than they have been in the past. And I think that's the biggest asset Honorable Kyagulanyi brings as a candidate. He has mobilized the youth, and they are ready to go and vote and bring change in Uganda. And I think that's going to be the way for the opposition to finally go over the hurdle and win the upcoming election, because Honorable Kyagulanyi has been able to mobilize the heart of the nation, which is the young people in Uganda today. The average age is 16 years old. So I think that's one of the strongest assets we have in the opposition, and we shouldn't take that for granted. We need to make sure these young people, unlike in previous elections, they show up and vote for Honorable Kyagulanyi in the upcoming election. So thank you so much again for that question.
Thank you very much, Dr. Daniel Kauma. Edward Abili, we recently, I believe today, Dr. Stella Nyanzi picked up the forms to run as a kind of like a people power candidate. What do you think of that?
First of all, thank you, Patricia, for this wonderful show. First of all, I would like to express that Dr. Stella Nyanzi's involvement with people power is an eye-opener to the middle class in Uganda, because in the past we had an issue with the middle class in Uganda who were comfortable, who had white-collar jobs, and they did not care about the bad governance in Uganda. So when we see Dr. Stella Nyanzi, first of all, who is a woman, as competent as she is, with all the education and qualification involving in politics, more so with the right group that thinks of transforming Uganda, I mean people power. That is a clear indication that the middle class people, or the so-called white-collar job holders, are now waking up, and it's an indication that it's time to take care of the mess that has been created by this regime, and we can only take care of that mess by having people like Dr. Stella Nyanzi and more people. We have people like Dr. Kauma who could be doing something. They are all putting all their energies in ensuring that we transform Uganda as a country. So I think that's a very good thing, and it's a very clear indication that we are going to have more lawyers, doctors, name it, all kinds of people from all walks of lives will join people power, and eventually we are going to transform our country. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Comrade Abili. Right, we are going to move on to Comrade JK, many reports, both local and globally, have indicated that Ugandan security organs continuously violated press freedom in Uganda. Do you agree with these reports?
Yes, thank you so much, Comrade Patricia. My network has been disturbing, but thank the man behind the technician, Mr. JB. Thank you so much. The journalists in Uganda have been badly beaten over time and their rights violated, but I see the parliament and some other organs are not speaking about it. The judiciary is not condemning it. The members of parliament don't even bring it to the floor, and this has become so rampant in our country. Like, for example, the journalists who were arrested in Arua with President Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, many of them were beaten. There is a story which was done by only one media house in Uganda, of which a big journalist in Uganda was beaten up and badly injured, but police did not take responsibility. They were diverting us to something else. We've seen the arrest of another journalist from some media house in Uganda who was arrested in the night. So this brings fear to them not to report neutrally, because the media is supposed to open the eyes of Ugandans. Media is supposed to show Ugandans what to do and what next. It is the fourth estate. We have it is like the fourth arm of government. It's supposed to scrutinize and let the public know what's happening. Many media houses in Uganda have been gagged not to report about what happens in people power. Like the death of Ziggy Wine and Yasin Kauma, just a few media houses reported about it. So President Museveni and his dictatorial regime have gagged the media in Uganda, and their rights have been violated. There is what is happening right now in Uganda on the side of the media. We are seeing that they have like, for example, the media in Uganda consumes 25% of the tear gas that is being thrown against the opposition, because they are not protected anywhere in the law. In the process of them executing their juries, they end up also being beaten, and it's against the international law of media governors. On the same issue, the security also has not been effectively given training. So we are looking at the leadership of Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu coming up and giving enough security equipment to these people, because it's really absurd to see in my country every day in Uganda AK-47 machine guns being wielded every day by policemen. This is really so bad. I was in Tanzania and I did not see any AK-47 on the streets, but in Uganda I feel my heart bleeding every day. I see AK-47 guns. Those are war machine guns. That's a machine gun that was designed to be on front line of war. We are not in war in Uganda with any country around the region, but machine guns are all over everywhere. So we have to put end to this when our President Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu gets into leadership. Comrade, there is also this issue of Ugandans being not given chance to get information by stopping journalists from accessing these bad spots of what is happening in our country. So we have to really fight and bring up change in our country, Uganda. We deserve better, because Uganda is a pearl of Africa. We deserve anything, and we have all the resources to execute this. The World Bank has brought up reports against speaking about torture in Uganda against journalists. The UN has brought up reports speaking about torture in Uganda, and the Uganda government and Mr. Museveni's dictatorship have always ignored speaking about these reports.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Comrade Farouk, do you see an end to this? What would be the solution overall in terms of press freedom in Uganda?
Thank you so much again. Yeah, the only thing is I do call upon all the Ugandans, especially the youth, to come together, to unite and rally behind Honorable Kyagulanyi Ssentamu under the umbrella of people power. If we can come together, we can fight these injustices that are happening in Uganda. As they say that united we stand, divided we fall. The only solution is we know that the clique of people that are brutalizing Ugandans, brutalizing journalists, brutalizing everyone is just only 1% among the 42 million. So if Ugandans, we can come together, stand as one, join our efforts, do whatever we can, and throw away this dictatorial government, I hope in the future, come 2021, Ugandans, we shall enjoy our life, we shall enjoy our country to its maximum without segregation, regardless of your religion, regardless of your political party, regardless of your social background, name it, as we see in Uganda currently. So the only solution is let's unite and fight our common enemy now. That's what I can submit to our Ugandans. Rally behind Honorable Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, as we see, he's a confident and a ready man and the future of Uganda. That's my submission that I can say.
Comrade Patricia.
Yes, please.
Yes, thank you so much. There is something I want to add on the point that my brother Haruna is making. In the year 2018-2019, government spent about 3 trillion. That's about $700 purchasing these ammunitions, these tear gas, these big mambas. Those we call them mambas in Uganda. Those because, but this is mainly to suppress media, not to speak to power. And if we can bring that money into proper use to these security agencies, not to brutalize Ugandans, because that money is enough to pay well. Most of the Uganda policemen beat up people because they are stressed, they're underpaid, they have so many problems. They sleep without food. Their families are crying for them. So most of them are so stressed, they are not thinking well. Some are sick. They like last time in Masaka, a police officer hanged himself dead. Someone who is supposed to save a life and himself is committing suicide. I think also on the part of the police and the security organs, we have to remunerate them and help them earn a good living. This is what we are looking at seeing in the leadership of His Excellency Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu come 2021.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Comrade JK. Comrade Abili, how do labor laws in the informal sector affect ordinary Ugandans?
Thank you, Patricia. First of all, I want to make clear that Uganda's got labor laws, but unfortunately, those labor laws remain on paper. They are not put into practice. And this is one of the strategies that the regime uses. They want to show the international world how beautiful the Constitution of Uganda is. But when it comes to reality, they do not put it in practice. First of all the labor institutions in Uganda are silent, they are powerless, and all power belongs to one person, and that's the dictator who heads the NRM government. That's a strategy that they use to consolidate power. I'll give you an example. Recently, because of COVID-19, the workers in Uganda demanded for some of their pay from the Social Security Fund, which is a right. But unfortunately, they were not able to access that money because the labor laws does not protect them. In other words, the labor laws could have come in at that point in time, but unfortunately, because the institutions that could have ensured that the labor laws work are suffocated by the regime. Just to give you a few statistics, Uganda's population, 50% of Uganda's population is under the informal sector. In other words, 50% of Uganda's GDP is contributed by the informal sector. And if you go to the urban areas, 80% of the population in the urban areas are employed in the informal sector. But if you look at the government programs, there's nothing to do with the informal sector. There's nothing that, or any form of incentives or an encouragement in innovations. And instead, the government insists on overtaxing these people in the informal sector because they believe that taxing poor people and keeping people poor is another way of consolidating power. I'll give you an example of the United States. If you look at people like the Rockefellers, these were people from the informal sector, but because of the support of their government, because of the good constitution that was implemented, they were able to rise and build the railway system in the United States, and they were able to employ millions of people. Another example is Andrew Koenig. Andrew Koenig was just a poor person from an ordinary family. But because the informal sector was well structured and the laws well implemented in the United States, he was able to build up a big steel factory that employed millions of people. In fact, it said that during the 18th century, the US had the biggest steel company in the world, and led by somebody from the informal sector who was Andrew Koenig. So the government does all this purposely. They write beautiful laws, but they do not implement the laws. Back to people power. People power cares about the informal sector. We have a department of the informal sector led by Chairman Nyansi. And that tells you that when people power gets into power, when Bobi Wine becomes president, they're going to focus a lot of Uganda's attention and come up with laws that will protect and motivate people in the informal sector. Because people power believes that with a strong informal sector, the country's economy will grow. Just like the Chinese Revolution developed just because of the strong informal sector. So let's go out there, support Robert Chagulanyi, and ensure that we vote in large numbers. Let's protect our votes, and definitely the informal sector will grow and Uganda will grow at large. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Comrade Edward. Jaja Ibu, did you have something to add to that? Can you please unmute?
Yeah. Say that again, comrade.
Did you have something to add to Edward's submission?
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, comrade. The biggest problem that we have is that the finances in NSSF, as the comrade has put it, are not there. And this is the money that is supposed to pay a poor teacher who is down there serving with NSSF, a poor ordinary doctor who is in Health Center 3 down in my district in Kayunga, to save for their times in future when they get old. But we are seeing that they are making it to be 80 years to get the money from NSSF. This is very unjust. This is very bad. And this shows how the greedy this regime is. They are telling Ugandans that they invested all this money, but it's not true. They did not invest this money. This money probably was swindled by these greedy men who are in leadership, because they know they don't have to account to anyone. They don't care about accounting to Ugandans.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Jaja Ibu, can you please unmute? Did you have a submission on this topic, Jaja Ibu?
Yes. I was actually was I on mute?
Yes, you were.
Oh my God. Sorry about that. Actually, I was saying that Comrade Abili actually articulated that point, that particular point very well. But for me, what I think is that actually he mentioned 50%, but I think 80% of Uganda's population is under the informal sector. These are the majority of the people, and these are the people that are not being taken care of. You know, any government that comes in place and has no clear plan for the majority of the people, then that government is not pro people. Just like Museveni's government. Museveni's government is not pro people. All they care about is themselves. They even steal more money from the people. They make sure that people even suffer even the more. Okay, our people are already suffering, but they make sure that they suffer even more. They make sure that they milk them even to the last drop. This is the thing that we are actually fighting for. We want to have a government that actually advocates for inclusivity, a government where all Ugandans are treated equally, a government where all Ugandans are actually proud to be called Ugandans. Right now, when you go to Chikubo, when you go to Owino, all those places are closed with the so-called coronavirus curfew or lockdown, whatever. But you have countries that have actually opened their economies. Countries like South Africa, they have more than 300,000 cases, and they're allowing their people to go and work. Okay, but up to now, Uganda is still under lockdown, and you can imagine when is the lockdown going to end? Coronavirus is not going to disappear today. It's not going to disappear tomorrow. We don't even know when it's going to disappear. So this government does not care about the common people. That's why we are telling Ugandans that we need to come and join hands together so that we can be able to put a government in place, a government that will work for all people, a government that cares about all people, a government that makes sure that all people are equal, a government that cares about the majority. The majority of the people are the informal sector. These are the people that contribute hugely towards the economy of the country. This is a very fundamental point, and we call upon all Ugandans to make sure that they rise up and say that we need to have our country back. Our country today is in the hands of a few people, and we want to make sure that we bring that power into the hands of the people, whereby a government lives on the mercy of the people, not on the mercy of the gun.
Thank you very much. That was well put. Comrade Banner, last week, as traders and chef leaders were asking government to open up the economy, Diana Acheng, the head of the COVID-19 task force, appeared in public during lockdown without wearing a mask and following COVID-19 guidelines. What message was he sending to Uganda?
Thank you so much, Madam Moderator. You know, Miss Jane Ruth Acheng, the health minister in Uganda, is the reason the country is on lockdown. She's the one who has been giving information to the head of state, telling him, you know, how many COVID cases they had in Uganda and all that stuff. She's the reason why people are suffering. You know, in Uganda, people have lost jobs. People, you know, there is a lot of suffering just because they've reported that there are so many COVID cases in Uganda. But what surprises you is that she holds a meeting whereby even herself, she's not wearing a mask. I mean, she said she was demonstrating how to put on a mask, but after that, she even went and danced some Kwakaro, you know, dance with the residents without wearing a mask. There was no social distancing, not even an inch of social distancing. That really, really makes me mad because the country has been locked down. The kids are not going to school. They are talking about giving them radios and televisions, which they can't even give, because if they haven't even been able to distribute masks all over Uganda, how can they distribute radios? And if the kids are going to use radios to study, if a family has 5 kids, how will they study? You know, how, if the kids are in different grades, one is in primary 1, another is in primary 5, and how will they study? You know, this is really, really so annoying. And then, like other comrades said, I think the country should be opened up so that the kids go back to school. I mean, Acheng has shown that there is no need to fear. Yes. And even if there is need to fear, Ugandans should work and make sure they feed their children and have their immunity, have food in their bodies whereby their bodies are immune to the diseases. Otherwise, if they are eating banana peels for a meal, they won't be able to have their bodies, immune. So instead of putting people out of work, not making them eat, they should make sure everybody eats. First of all, in Chikubo, business is as usual. In Imbarara, they just reported yesterday, Salt TV reported that business is as usual. The border people carry people the way they want. Why shouldn't it be like that everywhere? And why shouldn't schools be opened? I mean, that's the most important thing, because if we don't have educated kids in our country, the country is already poor. And then we don't have education in our country. I mean, we are going, I don't know where we are going actually. I can't say where we are going, because that's unbelievable. Any woman who has a child would want their children to get an education. And the education minister should be thinking about this. Let them not think about, they are thinking about scientific elections. They are thinking about issues that will keep them in power. I mean, we are so worried about the power. I mean, they should leave, they should go. It is time for them to go. They've had enough of their share. They've done whatever they've done, but Ugandans have been, they are even poorer than when they came in.
Yes.
When I was going to school as a child, my dad could sell coffee and pay school fees for us. Now, the people, the farmers have nothing to sell. Even when they sell stuff, they are bought by the government, government people, the few people who benefit from the government, whereby they name the price for the products, whereby the farmers are not benefiting. They can't even send their kids to school. This is really, really, really sad. I don't know how Madam Acheng is going to apologize to Ugandans, but even before she apologizes, I think the country should go back to normal, and people should be able to feed their families. Eating eggs is good. Eggs have all the nutrients you need, except vitamin C. The families should be able to do such things, to boost their immune system, so that even if COVID is there, their bodies are strong enough to fight it. And leaving that alone, I'm so glad that Chagulanyi came, because he opened the eyes of the youth. He made the youth believe in themselves. He made the youth know their rights. He made the youth know that leaders are supposed to be their servants. A leader who says he's not a servant of the people should not be a leader. Actually, I don't know why Mr. Yoweri Kaguta is even president of Uganda, because if he doesn't want to serve Ugandans, then he shouldn't be president. Let's have people like Chagulanyi Sentamu Robert, who want to serve the residents of the country, be presidents. And I thank the Ugandans who have been on the ground and worked so hard to make sure that this change in the country happens. And with when I'm concluding, I would like to I want to pass this information that Mr. Bijilwa, I don't know his other name, who has been arrested this morning, should be released. I don't know why he should be punished, because he's a people power supporter. You've made Ugandans almost deny their country. You even fear to say I'm from Uganda anymore because of what's going on in Uganda. Thank you so much, Madam Moderator.
Thank you very much, Comrade Bena. As we all know, during the lockdown, Ugandans were arrested, they were beaten, they were shot, they were killed. pregnant women were ended up dead, right?
Yes.
And so we look at, you know, Diana Achane. First off, she's a misleader. Second, she needs to be arrested, right? And that takes care of that. And she needs to be removed from her post. You know, we need leaders that are going to transform the country, and we need leaders that are going to lead by example. And so with this said, I'd like to conclude with you, Dr. Daniel Kauma. What role can the diaspora play from now leading into the 2021 elections?
Thank you so much, and I thank everybody who has been able to make those excellent submissions. And I'd like to end with 3 proactive steps, because most of the time we talk to all of you, we share our experiences, our stories of what needs to happen on the ground, and then people ask what next. Now, there are 3 things we can do as part of opposition. 1, you need to knock on doors. This is a campaign. We need to win over hearts and minds of Ugandans who are still on the fence about people power, of Ugandans who are still on the fence about the ability for the opposition to govern. So I encourage all of you in the movement, those of you who are on the ground in Uganda, we applaud you for your courage and all that you're doing for the movement. Please continue knocking on doors. Let's convince more Ugandans. Start with your family. Tell them what can happen if their voices count, if their ideas count, if their experience counts towards building a better Uganda. Because together we can build a country that we are all proud of. So let's knock on doors. Let's spread the campaign message of what People Power is about, of how we feel we can transform the economy, how we can transform the education sector, how we can transform healthcare, how we can transform and have a more humane security system in Uganda. So let's continue knocking on doors. That's point number 1. If you're in the diaspora, you cannot be on the ground, or even if you're on the ground in Uganda and you don't know how to contribute, reach out to your coordinators. If you have 1,000 shillings, if you have 10,000 shillings, running a campaign requires resources. Now, there's a gentleman who talked about the number of candidates who are lining up in Nansana to run for office. They need resources to get their message out. The campaign needs your support to make sure this message gets down to the grassroots, so that on campaign day, we know how to mobilize voters, how to find people who are going to be guarding the vote, to make sure we have the resources and tools to run an effective campaign. So your resources count. Whatever you have, reach out to your coordinators, donate to People Power to make sure the campaign is well funded. Remember, we are facing off against NRM, which has your treasury. So the taxes you pay are being used to campaign against you. So we have to support the People Power movement with whatever you have. If you don't have the resources, donate your time. Knock on doors, go and campaign. If you have the resources and you can't campaign, donate to the movement through your coordinators. And the 3rd and final point I will say, we need to vote in 2021. There are many people who register to vote and they don't show up. So we need to change that mentality that elections don't matter in Uganda, that we know the outcome already. That mentality has to end, to make sure that we listen to what Bobi Wine is preaching to us. He's our leader, and he has demonstrated to us that change can happen. He came as an outsider and won convincingly in Chadondo East. He can do the same in the next presidential election in 2021. So I appeal to all of you, in addition to supporting your campaign, we need to mobilize and make sure in 2021 we show up to vote in large numbers and overwhelm the NRM machinery. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you much for contributing towards this session today. And God bless you all. And thank you for moderator Patricia for making this happen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Comrade Daniel. Edward Abili, in terms of the scientific elections, would it help for the diaspora to set up coordinated protests nationwide within their countries?
Thank you, Patricia, for this opportunity. First of all, I want to make clear that the scientific elections are designed to usher in the same regime that has tormented Ugandans for generations.
Yes.
This is a strategy by the dictator to reach the elections. Reason being that we, the people in People Power, the likes of under the leadership of Robert Chagulanyi, have discovered how the dictator has been rigging elections in the past. And now we are ready to confront them in all ways and in all directions. And so the strategy has been to come up with a scientific election, to keep people away from campaigns, to tell people that you vote and you go home, do not protect your vote, so that they can use the military and the police and their so-called electoral commission to declare Museveni as a leader again. This will not happen. Now, you asked me about the diaspora. Definitely, I encourage the diaspora, all coordinators, and in due time, we are going to come up with coordinated demonstrations across the globe. We are going to suffocate the world with demonstrations to reject the scientific election, so that we can have a free and fair election, so that Ugandans can be able to choose their leader. And I believe with a free and fair election, Robert Kyagulanyi will become the next president of Uganda come 2021. I do not have any doubt. I confidently believe in that, and we shall make it come to pass. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Comrade Abili. Thank you very much, team, for joining us today.
Comrade Patricia.
1 second, please. Congratulations, Haruna Farouk, for becoming the UAE youth leader. And you can donate to the People Power movement at www.peoplepower.org.ug. And if you're scared, please turn your fear into courage. You too can be part of, causing change and affecting change in Uganda. And if you're interested in being part of Red Friday, please, email the People Power or send a message to the People Power Media Center on Facebook, and we can accommodate you. I'm sorry, Comrade Jeke, we're out of time. Ugandans, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.